Hey, sorry. I was down there looking. I was trying to find a Panthers win, but I couldn't. But I guess I'll find it later, maybe next week. Let's go ahead and let's just check out what happened in Week 7. We're going to do a quick rundown of games that I actually cared about or that actually mean anything, and I'm just going to talk about them and kind of my thoughts, and we're just going to do it. All right, so let's get started. First of all, going to start with the Jags over the Patriots. They ended up coming back from 10 points. The Jaguars did for the win. Doug definitely saved his job, for sure, the head coach, obviously, because the owner was not about to let him lose in London, basically his home, the Jaguars owner, if you don't know. He has the Jaguars going to London all the time, versus arguably the worst team in the Patriots if they lost that game. So that would have been terrible for them. Drake May, for the Patriots, on the stat sheet, it was better than the actual performance. He had about 3 potential easy interceptions that just didn't get caught by Jacksonville because they're bad too. So, but hey, it's good for the confidence that you didn't have that on the stat sheet. But the more interesting stuff, Gerard Mayo called out his team and just right immediately was like, hey, we are playing soft. We're a soft team. We're playing like soft defense. And then Bill Belichick came out and was like, yeah, it's the same guys as last year, and they weren't last year. It's all the same guys. And it was just so funny. It was hilarious. I was like, oh, my gosh, Bill just owned him. And he's kind of right. It's majority of the same guys, and they're not doing the same. But it's okay. It's okay, Patriots fans. You won, so stop crying for years. So you're fine. But it's a rebuild. So this is what a rebuild is. You'll be good. I still think Drake May is a great pick and is going to be good. So you'll be fine. But shout out to Brian Thomas Jr. Had him on my fantasy team for a good amount of teams. That was such a smart pick. I'm so smart. What a great pick, for sure. But it's looking like he should have been in that top 3 wide receiver conversation in terms of the draft with Neighbors, Odunze, Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Brian Thomas Jr. probably should have been up there with those guys as well. Second game, we're going to talk about quickly Falcons losing to the Seahawks. This was the one game, or one of the few, but probably the biggest one that I think shocked me the most. Seattle was down their 2 starting safeties, their cornerback 2, who's very good in Tariq Woolen, and their slot cornerback 3 on the road versus Atlanta, and they just dominated them. I mean, dominated's maybe a little too harsh, but they handedly beat them. And the biggest thing I want to take away from this game is Kirk Cousins. This is what you're getting with however old Kirk is right now, 36, something, whatever. This age, Kirk Cousins, this is what you're getting. The run game for the Falcons was hitting. I think Bijan had over 100 total yards, and Algier was great as well. Pitts made a ton of tough catches in the passing game, and there weren't really like these obvious bad drops or anything or routes by any receivers. And he has enough time, for sure, to throw the ball. And he's just not good. He was just terrible. He was the reason they lost, basically. I mean, if you just watch the game, statistically, they're going back and forth. They're similar, but he just had some horrible picks. 2 very bad throws, was missing just a lot of different guys. Just not good enough. Just not good enough versus Seattle defense that was lower. When you get an older guy like this, games like these versus defensive lines and aggressive defensive head coaches, in basically what Seattle is right now, they make Kirk and they give him very little room for mistakes. And if you combine that with the lack of pressure that was on Geno Smith, because the Falcons have no pressure at all, he's going to go ahead and eat you up if you don't get pressure on him. So that's kind of what happened with Seattle. I definitely didn't expect Kirk Cousins to play that bad. But he's a week-to-week guy. He literally threw 5-6 touchdowns in the last game against Buccaneers. So he'll be up and down. That's what you get with the Falcons. But I think if they really want to make up for Kirk's maybe lack of consistency, pass rush. There's nothing there. I've said it in the podcast. You got to go get pass rush. So if you're the Falcons, go get that. But good luck because other teams are trying to get him. Detroit Lions. Next one, the one that I went back and watched and was very intrigued with was the Packers over the Texans. This was definitely an interesting game, to say the least. Jordan Love was his usual self with his usual insanely high highs and then just really low lows. Started the game with a tipped pass that became an interception, but this was not a normal tipped interception. It was tipped because it should have been intercepted, and then the guy made up for it and intercepted it when the guy who
Jalen Petrie, I believe. The defender literally just dropped the interception, and his buddy saved him. So it should have been a pick anyways, but he just didn't see the safety at all and got picked off on a curl route. But then he just has this amazing throw right over the safety, right down the middle for a diving Luke Musgrave touchdown. It's just one. Literally, you get the complete spectrum. You get amazing and then horrible. Again, great sideline throw to Tavion Wicks after Musgrave got in the middle and they were guarding the middle. They went outside right over the cornerback and the safety right as they were coming in. Bang, perfect. And then he has a big, deep overthrow in double coverage for an interception on the next drive. So it's just who he is. It's who he is, but it's why I think that they can reach a higher ceiling with him than maybe other teams with other highly paid quarterbacks that are in the same boat as his. Which, speaking of highly paid quarterbacks, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out the last video. I spent a lot of time editing it for sure, and researching it a little bit. Still forgot some stuff that I wanted to say in that video, but it's not a big deal. It's fine. Go check it out if you haven't already. It's actually performing really well, so I really appreciate all the people that have watched so far. But back to the Texans game. The biggest differences in this game, for at least for what was on the scoreboard, which is 22-24 and a Packers win, the biggest thing that could have changed that was Houston. They got stopped when they went for they were going for two when they were on the 1 yard line. So they had a penalty. They decided to go for two to make it a 3-point game, and they ended up getting stopped. But I mean, they also, were able to score off of a Packers muffed punt that turned into a Houston touchdown. So they kind of got gifted a free touchdown there that let them get back into this game. But Mixon was running all over Green Bay. He's clearly the heart of this offense now that Nico Collins is injured. But I wanted to talk about CJ, because CJ is normally good under pressure and was previously in the year, but he was not today. No, he was not at all today. I mean, he had no turnovers at all, but he did have 4 sacks and couldn't make any throw on the run. Like, it could have been way more sacks if he just stood in there, and he got out, and you're like, okay, that's good. And some of them are, clear trying to get it out of bounds, but other times he's trying to make a play because it's third down, and he just can't hit him on the run. He just can't do it. So that was a little concerning, and maybe it's a sight of slightly what's to come and how the offense will look without Nico Collins, because Nico Collins was the most efficient player in the NFL at wide receiver last year, and was very efficient coming into this year because they use him very correctly, and he's very talented. And now it seems like a big part of that offense and element is gone. And, I mean, C.J. Stroud had like 55 passing yards this game, and they almost won. So it was a little crazy. But in the end, C.J. was clutch, where in the last drive that they had in terms of that was realistic for them to win the game, he had some clutch third downs to waste the clock for Green Bay because they're up. They were beating Green Bay in the fourth quarter. And then Green Bay gets the ball back, one final drive. Jordan Love seals the deal for Green Bay. It was really risky, though. They threw like 2 passes when they were in field goal range, and they easily could have been picks. So I don't know why they're doing that. Love almost lost in the game for it. But they did end up winning, and I still feel this way about Green Bay's potential in that it is super high. Even in the way they won. They lost the turnover battle -3. Every turnover they had led directly to Houston points. They had more penalties than Houston, and they still won the game. I mean, Matt LaFleur was doing such a great job moving his offensive linemen in motion in the pass game and the run game, leading directly to 2 touchdowns from very good play design. This game established for me who's closer to winning a Super Bowl right now, with both quarterbacks had very good fourth quarter drives, so they were clutch. We'll see, obviously their future, probably going to be a lot of great stuff to come for each of those teams. Then, obviously, Cleveland, Deshaun Watson got injured, so moment of silence. I'm not gonna say anything about it. I'm just gonna zip, no opinion, and let's hurry up and go to the next. Then what was my most anticipated game for sure was Lions and Vikings. This one was pretty interesting. So the Lions ended up winning the game. It was very close coming in at the end. In terms of how the game went, I mean, the Lions, I think, really just benefited with their O-line. The Amon-Ra touchdown that they had, Amon-Ra's only touchdown, Minnesota literally blitzed and had like 2+ 2 defenders. It was like 7 against 5 for Detroit's O-line. And Jared Goff had plenty of time to go back, read, and get a deep throw for a touchdown. I mean, their O-line was just, it's so good. It makes up for so much stuff. Brian Branch is amazing. And I'm not going to say that I loved him as a draft pick and that I knew he was going to do this, but I did. He was like one of my favorite picks in 2 years ago's draft, so shout out to Detroit there. But, I mean, he's now the best player on the team without Aiden Hutchinson. Pass breakups, diving interceptions, fumble recoveries that should have totally been a touchdown. He was so close, just barely stepped out of bounds. But the Lions, it's almost like they want to beat themselves. Like, I think Dan Campbell is the perfect coach for this team, but the reason I was scared to really pick them to make the Super Bowl, which I inevitably did, was because he's going to both win you and lose you games based on his decisions. And they had they literally had a fake punt on the first drive of the game on their own 33 on 4th and 7. And shocker, they didn't get it. And it led directly to a Minnesota touchdown. So, just, I can't, you gotta be leveled with this stuff, man. Like, I love the aggressiveness at times when it actually makes sense. Or when it slightly is like, hey, they could do this, they could not, not like, hey, we're just not expecting this really at all because it doesn't make sense at all. And then, boom, you get stopped right there. And now it's almost like the cat's out of the bag. It's like, hey, we got to be prepared all the time because this guy's going to do anything at any point. So maybe he needs to do a little less to kind of get people off his back in terms of maybe expecting him to do crazy stuff. But Darnold, I think in terms of how this game was going, I thought the Vikings were going to win because I thought the lack of pass rush from Detroit was going to affect how the Vikings offense was going to be in terms of they're just going to be, hey, we're riding high, like no one's getting us at all. And in the first half, it was more so chaos in terms of Detroit being able to just run the ball, score. Minnesota hadn't played from behind and everything. And then other crazy, different turnovers and everything. But Darnold is still, he is very good, and they ended up coming back. Detroit had a 28-17 lead, and on the drive after the 28-point, or the touchdown they scored that made it 28 points, they stopped Minnesota for a field goal on their next drive, which was good. But then Montgomery just fumbles and right for a Minnesota touchdown, and Minnesota goes for 2 to make it a 3-score game, and they luckily don't get it. So that really helped them a ton, at least Detroit. And then on the next drive, Goff just chucks it while being hit, and he fumbles. And thank goodness his offensive lineman was right next to him and fell on it, or else they lose if not for that. And then each team punts. Lions run it because they're the best running team, one of the best running teams in the NFL. Get a big play-action throw from Goff, kick a game-winning field goal to win the game. But Minnesota totally came back. It was not, an easy win. Like, the Vikings totally came back. Detroit got no pressure on Minnesota in the second half, and it's why they were able to come back, and it's why I'm concerned about Detroit. I mean, in terms of just this game, Darnold's been good under pressure, but it's not even necessarily just pressuring him to make him get hands in his face and throw bad passes. He's still a fumble merchant. So if you can just get your hands on him and maybe get a sack or two, that gives you a literal more than average chance of getting the ball back because he fumbles a lot, especially in sacks. And they weren't even doing anything against them. So for the sake of, I guess, them not even hitting him in the second half, that's basically why they were able to come back. So I think obviously they need a pass rusher if they really want to win a Super Bowl. But credit to them. Credit to the run game. That's the biggest thing for me. It's always going to be for the Lions. Jared Goff makes the very good passes when he needs to and tries not to make the dumb decisions. But, I think from time to time you do have some plays where, people maybe goes over, past their eye and they don't see it. But, I mean, they literally easily could have lost that game if an offensive lineman just didn't fall on the ball. So, very lucky Detroit won that game. I don't really think less of any of these teams. They're both clearly great. I'm just surprised that the Lions won, even on the road. And if not for a fumble touchdown, they could have won pretty comfortably. So shout out to them, but they still need a good pass rusher. Please do that. Yeah, I'm just not even gonna talk about that one. Next game, Chiefs beat the 49ers, Super Bowl rematch pretty comfortably. And watching this game, I just had to pat myself on the back. Because if you don't know, go ahead, go listen to any episode I've ever had or a video on my Instagram about Brock Purdy. Because as someone who actually watches football and understands football, I'm not falling in the sheep of Brock Purdy as a top 5-8 quarterback. And I think this game kind of proved that. Now, both quarterbacks had, it was rough in terms of the stat sheet for sure, and it was close. But I'd love people to just do something for me. Watch the games. Brock Purdy's interceptions and Patrick Mahomes' interceptions in the same game are not even close at all. Brock Purdy had overthrows, completely blind throwing into double teams, and then the third pick was 3rd and goal, and they're down by 2 possessions. There's plenty of time in the fourth quarter. There's like 10 minutes, and he forces it off his back foot into triple coverage to Chris Cooley, and there's plenty of time on the clock. 3rd and goal. They could maybe take a sack, kick a field goal, or take a sack and go ahead and maybe go for it on 4th and goal. But no, doesn't do that, and he throws a pick. And that basically sealed the deal for the Chiefs. Whereas Mahomes' picks are a tip pass at the defensive line that just goes all the way up in the air and falls into defensive linemen's for a pick. And the other one was a post route, and the wide receiver just fell down. He just tripped and fell by himself, and it was an easy interception for the defense. So please don't give me that stuff of how they both were like this. No, they're not even close to the same interceptions at all. And I know Mahomes has not been up to his standards. Totally understandable and fine. The defense has really been the key for that team. Absolutely, that's the correct statement. But he just makes the plays when it matters most. Sneaking around for a first down on 3rd down versus the best linebacker in football, giving all these fake throws and pitches and everything, juking him out. He's just barely sidearm getting passes off for really clutch first downs on 3rd down to waste the clocks and go down there and score a touchdown. And then literally 4th and goal to go ahead and put the game away, trucking a defender, a safety, Malik Mustafa, rookie at, I believe, Wake Forest, and he's pretty, or maybe it's not Wake Forest, I can't remember, but he's pretty built, literally trucks him to the ground, Mahomes. This dad bod right here trucks him to the ground. And Purdy, with the least amount of yak yards, this is the worst that the record has ever been under Brock Purdy. And, I mean, I know guys are hurt, but every single team is hurt. You can't just say, I'll win if everyone's healthy. Like, that's just not how it works. They still have George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. Jordan Mason's been a really good replacement. Ayuk has been on the field. He only got hurt about halfway through the game, and now he's going to be out for the year, unfortunately. But Juwan Jennings showed a ton when he got in. Ricky Pearsall is a first-round pick and a first-round talent. And Jacob Cowing is a rookie from Arizona who has looked really good when he's gotten balls. So, I mean, Purdy's got the lowest adjusted completion percentage of his career, and it's not even close. It's by 7%. And his drop percentage is right in the middle of the NFL at 16. So it's not like guys are dropping all these passes or anything like that to where his adjusted completion percentage would skyrocket. No, he just can't succeed to the level that people think he can, or that the record has been if everyone's not there. He's not a bad quarterback, but he's not the quarterback that people think. And I don't know when you guys are going to get it. And the 49ers also, funny enough, totally could have won this game. I mean, they had a missed PAT and then within 5 yards of the end zone at the half, they had to settle for a field goal. So that's maybe, if you're thinking that best case scenario, 8 points left on the board there. So San Francisco still could have won the game, even after all this stuff, which goes to show you their talent in general. Then finishing off with all of the night games, the Steelers over the Jets. Am I dumb for still believing in the Jets? Look, I'm telling you, it's not all on Rodgers. I know it seems like it, and I'm going to probably sound dumb for always saying that, but I'm trying to tell you it's not. The defense has gotten ran all over. Russell Wilson, in his first game with a brand new team, and it was his best game he's had since not being a Seahawk. The 2 interceptions that Rodgers had, one of them was an undrafted free agent rookie defensive back making a Madden-like interception where he catches it. His body's not even completely turned to the ball, gets it with basically one hand and just snags the pick. It was a great interception. And then the other one, it bounces off Garrett Wilson's chest. He literally caught it with his chest. You got to catch with your hands. It's like 101 right there, man. What are you doing? And that was literally a gift that just ended the game for the Jets. I mean, it's just unbelievable. That was very bad by Garrett Wilson. And I mean, Rodgers is first in the NFL in drops. Number 1 in drops. And he's only behind Josh Allen in terms of PFF's big-time throws, in terms of total big-time throws, which is like perfect throws, basically. So, I don't know what I got to tell you, man. I'm sorry. It's not Rodgers. It's the team until they figure it out. I know we hate Rodgers because of, his attitude and everything like that. And I understand some of the stuff, for sure. I said in my Jets video that is some stuff I still believe in terms of leadership. But on-the-field play, when you're looking at on-the-field play, he's not number 1 in terms of blame. I'm sorry. He's just not. Ravens over Bucks. Lamar is amazing, but I really don't care, to be honest. My opinion won't change of him until the playoffs. So, yes, he might win a 3rd MVP. And if he does, he would have more MVPs than playoff wins. Let that sink in for a minute. Yeah, that's what it would be if he won MVP. So, Lamar, I hope for your sake, go out there and win some playoff games and maybe get to the Super Bowl or AFC title game at the least this year. And then, unfortunately for the Buccaneers, their season might completely change at this point. Both their star receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, got injured. And Todd Bowles, you're a great defensive coach, but I don't really care if you said, yeah, my players wanted to play, so I let them play. You got to think holistically. You're the head coach. The game was over. Why are you playing these guys? The game's done. And you got him out there getting what, stats? And now he's out for the year, Chris Godwin. So, great on that, Bucks. And then we had Cardinals over Chargers. Super ugly game. My gosh. But Chargers literally easily could have won if Jalen Reagor didn't fumble at the goal line on a receiving touchdown, which, I mean, you just can't catch a break with being drafted in terms of being a bust and in front of great receivers. So, yeah, that's pretty rough career for Jalen Reagor still. And then they literally got an interception, and the defensive lineman fumbled it on the same exact play that he got the interception. So they got a pick but did nothing with it. So unfortunate for them, but it's the reason I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, the Chargers, because they just can't come back from negative game scripts because of what is around Justin Herbert. I mean, Will Dissly was his best option last night, and Ladd McConkey, who's supposed to be the number 1 receiver right now, which, I mean, is a rookie and is limited, and was dropping everything in the first half. So, unfortunate for the Chargers there, but hey, for the Cardinals, they get a win at home. And then maybe for the Chargers, they can go ahead and get Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp is now on the market, and he's getting traded. I don't know where he'll be traded. He literally might be traded before this video even comes out, maybe a few hours after this video comes out. I have no idea. But my number 1 options are, I think, Kansas City, because they absolutely need a receiver. I think it would fit perfectly. Mahomes would love playing with a guy like Cooper Kupp. They just have to figure the money out. Pittsburgh clearly wants to win right now. I think Russell Wilson gives them a better chance to win because he throws a better football than Justin Fields. So, yeah, go ahead and listen to the last video if you would have liked to already know that was going to happen. I mean, Justin Fields' deep ball is just like a line drive. That's why they weren't getting it down the field. He was good on the running and everything, but throwing the ball down the field was not it. Russ, he knows how to moon it. He knows how to place it, drop it in the bucket. So if he can't do anything else, it's definitely something that he can do there. So maybe Pittsburgh go ahead and gets him to have someone else besides George Pickens. And then the Chargers, they have terrible receivers. If they want to win, they go get him. And then Tampa Bay. If they think their window is still open, Tampa Bay could go ahead and slide in there. But those are the teams, and it kind of seems inevitable that he's just going to be a Chief. But I think Chiefs and Steelers are the two that you should look at. Before we go, if you want me to do bets or anything, I hit this bet yesterday but last week because I've researched a lot of different stuff. So if you want me to show anything, maybe I will. I've been having fun looking up what the best bets are. I just look up touchdown stuff. So maybe I'll share some with you whenever. I don't know. And if you get my YouTube channel to 100 subscribers by the end of the year, I will buy a Chargers tight end legend who made a catch last night, Stone Smart. I'll buy his jersey. I'm serious. Subscribe.